Now we're live. Look at that, like that. But ding, we are live with episode number 190. This is a banter show. We're talking about all kinds of stuff today. Big event just started. Oh, and of course, same thing as last time. Let's just turn that off because I heard myself again. Did you guys hear that too? No.
I didn't know.
Okay, it's just through my headphones. Anyway, I try and have a second screen up so I can monitor it. Of course, every time the show starts, it goes and starts making noise, and I can't hear anything, and I get so confused, and I turn off every window possible. But let's not get into all that. Thank you, Michael. How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Good.
You have a good week?
Yeah, so far.
Excellent.
Done a couple shoots. But
we were talking quite a bit. We had a little hangout earlier with Michelle, and you shared a few videos and things like that with me on some of your composite work. I really want to share that time lapse. It's a little long, but we can skip ahead and check it out. But later on in the show today, we're going to show a time lapse, and I would show it right now. But oh, I do have it right now. No, I don't. I closed that window, but I want to check that out. So maybe you can share in our private chat that link one more time. And at some point during the hangout today, I want to share that because the work that goes into making a composite is ridiculous. Like, oh, there it is right there. Cool. I really enjoy. Okay, so before we say hi to Phil, actually, before we get into this, let's say hi to Phil. Hi, Phil. I can't hear you. You have no sound. You're still very quiet. I can't hear a thing. There you are. No?
Am I back?
oh, there we go.
Hello.
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 Good.
Big
How you
quiet
doing?
land. I'm doing very well.
What is with your sound, dude? You're cutting in and out. Now it's out. Now it's
Lost
good.
you again. Of course,
You're-
this happens once we go live.
I know, right? It was fine until we went live, and now you're all right. Well, you work on that. Hi, just wave. Tell the world. Oh, that's actually very well done. Can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to share this. Now, you're not going to hear the sound, but it's just music. And this is the work that is involved in making a composite. This is pretty cool. Michael shared this with me earlier, and I'm just going to quickly go through. Here we go. It's a good rock tune, too.
Yeah, I just found the first thing that matched up to the amount of time was in the video. But
Pop-ups.
so
Explain what's going on here, dude.
not the most glorious footage here. I was just borrowing a GoPro from the school. This was demonstrating sort of going through the motions of what footage to get, what pictures were being taken. And the idea for the composite, any sort of composite that you want to do, is to get the background image, which is called the plate, which is just an empty image of the background. In this case, it was the couch without her on it, so that I had background content to work around when I was moving pieces around, and then getting multiple photos of my model in different positions and combining them into an impossible position, which is, in this case, her levitating. So you can see in the video me cutting out the different parts of each image, and now the parts that you're seeing is I took the little book that she was holding and put a little textured design into it, and then having it as its own light source and adding that glow out of it.
The steps that are involved. I mean, I would get lost. I'd get totally lost. Wouldn't know where I was. And so this is all that you're going to be talking about when you give your presentation for the masterclass, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're going to be covering dodging and burning when it comes to composite work, channel masking, and how to, especially the absolute nightmare that is cutting out a photo when it has hair in it, trying to get the fine details of the hair out. Sort of environmental blending, environmental color palettes, and how that can be used as the glue for multiple photos going together.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. Well, good work. And thank you for sharing that with me. And I can't wait to sit in on that class because that's going to be an eye-opener for sure. That's November the 6th, and that just went live yesterday on daytripperphoto.com. And we've already got a few people registered. Now, the thing about these master classes at the studio is there's only space for about 8 people. to set up with your laptops, and you have to bring your own laptop. So of the 8 that were originally available, there are 2 already taken. So if people are interested in signing up for the composite course with Michael Lane, please go check that out, www.daytripperphoto.com. Phil, are you back up and running? Can we hear you?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. That's
Excellent.
really weird. I shut everything off, turn it all back on, unplug things, plugged it back in.
Bada boom, bada bing.
There we go.
Cool. Now, you have been teasing us for the past, I don't know, since you came on the show about big news. Is this big news ever going to happen?
I have a website now.
What?
Yay. It's currently under construction. But if you go to it, it says under construction.
Well, at least that's a step above.
Yes, it is. It actually has a website behind it. But I had an issue that every time I clicked on a gallery, it brought me to a page that didn't exist. So I needed to figure out why that was happening. Other than that, it's up, it's running, it's ready to go. It's just you can't visit it. You visit a splash page, but that doesn't help.
Well, hopefully it'll be up soon and people can actually start to see what you do. Because we've been talking about some cool ideas that we have, upcoming things that are down the pipe, I guess you could say, in Daytripper Photo world, in line of editing. Speaking of Michael's composite session, there's going to be some new things, and
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah. Depending on the interest from the community for something like it, but actually just earlier we're talking about a potential kind of intro to Lightroom course.
Yeah,
because it can be a very daunting software, but it doesn't have to be.
No, that's for sure. And there's so many people who do advanced edit who don't really think of Lightroom as the place to do it. And even just the file management side of things is what threw me off for so many years.
And it can be very tricky, but it's definitely a good base to start your editing with.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you for being here, guys, both of you. And thank you, as always, for contributing as much as you do with Daytripper Photo. For those of you who don't know, Daytripper Photo is an online community and a hands-on photo class environment. We run classes all over the place. In fact, this weekend, we have the big private island overnight class that we're doing. And did you guys see the weather?
Oh, it's supposed to be nice and warm, isn't it?
It's supposed to be perfect. Like, I don't know what it is about Daytripper. And it's funny because when I first saw the weather a couple weeks ago, it was looking pretty rough. It was looking like on Saturday there'd be rain and whatever. And, and I saw further down that there was clear. And as it starts coming closer, the clear patch is opening up. So now Friday all the way to Monday are going to be clear. And it's going to be beautiful. So hopefully we'll see some Aurora Borealis. We'll see stars. It's going to be... The moon is in its third quarter, so it's not going to be really bright, which is going to let us see the Milky Way, which will be amazing to photograph. We have a few other tricks planned. Sean Johnston's coming, of course, and he's got a trick or two up his proverbial sleeve, little hint right there. You just don't know what's going to happen on a Daytripper Photo session. So should be a lot of fun. There are still spaces available, guys, and if you're interested, please go, again, daytripperphoto.com. You can find out more about all our sessions. I'm just going to the conversation now. This show is now run on YouTube Live. It's not run through Google Hangouts like it used to be, although technically this is a Google Hangout. So if you're watching right now and you can, on YouTube, scroll down and click the little like button, please do that. Last show is kind of interesting. It was our first show on YouTube, and we have as many likes already on that show as we did on our most popular show. That was actually our number 13 episode. So number 13 has the exact same likes as number 190 or 189, which I thought was pretty funny. So this YouTube thing, people are watching. So thank you all very much for watching. Click like at the bottom. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll get notifications anytime we do a show. And you'll be reminded ahead of time so that you won't be caught off guard. It's funny, Andrew, he says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Summer ball season is over, so I'm back." He's missed it for quite a while. And now, thankfully, he's going to be able to watch. And hopefully my internet stabilizes because I'm cutting in and out a lot right now. Fingers crossed for you, Andrew. Fingers crossed. Hope you stabilize your internet. He's a pretty stable guy. Andrew's a good guy. So yeah, just if you have anything to say, go right ahead, right next to the window that you're watching on the right side. You can type something. It says say something. So go ahead and say it. Say hi. Let us know you're watching. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on some of the stuff we talk about later on, go ahead and post it there. We're going to see it right away, or at least I am. I've got it open. It's kind of confusing too because I've got a lag by a couple seconds. So I'm watching on one screen the recorded and of course the live down here, and my brain's going to explode, but that doesn't take much. So since it's a banter show, we can talk about anything. And one of the things that I thought we would talk about is the fact that Photokina is taking place over in Germany right now. Photokina doesn't happen every year, folks. And this year, apparently, it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of big announcements. Now, Michael, you're a little detached from the retail end of photography, although you love gear.
I am a gear nerd.
But Phil and I both kind of inhabit the Henry's workspace, and we love when new gear comes in because we get to play with it, which is always fun. So, Phil, is there anything, just off the top of your head, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, is there anything that kind of caught your attention, something you're really excited about that was announced recently?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a Photokina, but I was looking at the, and I might have talked about them last week, I don't remember, but the new line of Sigma video lenses.
Yes.
They look super pretty, and I'm just super excited to see what they do, because if they have the same like quality that their art lenses have and aren't at an absolutely ridiculous price, they're going to be a great kind of staple, at least I feel, in that space.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to. And being sponsored by Sigma, you know, that's something hopefully that on day trips we will have access to. Maybe we'll start doing some video stuff and bring those cinema lenses into the conversation. That'd be really cool.
Could be fun.
Before we get into anything else, though, I just want to remind everybody, you know, this show is nothing if it wasn't for community. So be involved in what we're talking about. Use the chat part of our conversation to keep in touch with us. And our sponsors, I mean, we couldn't do anything without our, well, we would do a lot without our sponsors, but the sponsors just make it that much better because they're awesome. And what's really cool is we got folks to sponsor our show that we use their product anyway. Mm-hmm. There's not one sponsor we have that I wouldn't go to as my main brand of choice for that product anyway. The Cotton Carrier, I use it. I've been using it for about a year and a half before they even started sponsoring the show, which I absolutely was ecstatic about because I use this stuff all the time. Cotton Carrier hip holster. I just shot TIFF a couple weeks ago or a week and a bit ago, and I literally had 2 hip holsters with my cameras. One on, you know, just right there. It was super convenient, comfortable. The hand strap, I hate wearing a strap around my neck. I don't know about you guys, but I do not wear a strap on my camera. Plus, it advertises what camera you have, you know, Nikon or whatever. So the Cotton Carrier hand straps, probably the most comfortable hand strap ever created. And I have to say that because I have psoriasis, and this can be mighty painful if you just take a strap and wrap it around your hand. So I've never had an issue. It's always very comfortable. I highly recommend that stuff. And so it was awesome when they said that they would sponsor. And of course, Lens Pen is something that we all use. Any photographer I know. So thank you, Lens Pen, for being a major sponsor for the Daytripper show. Any session we run, Niagara Falls, where there's mist all over the place, wipe them down. They're handy. They have everything that you can possibly need, including, which I use every week before the show. I get my little sidekick, my little Lens Pen sidekick out, and I clean the monitor of my computer screen. Super handy, and it just reactivates itself when you put it back in the container here. So even though it might look dirty at one time, you put it in a couple times, and it's perfectly clean again. So awesome little smart little tools. So thank you, Lens Pen. Thank you, Cotton Carrier. Sennheiser, thank you for the support you gave us. And, of course, Sigma. We've talked about that. They let us use lenses on so many of our day trips, and it adds a completely different element, being able to try these things. I've been receiving a string of emails from one of my customers today asking about a super wide angle for real estate. And, of course, my usual go-to is either the Nikon 10-24, which I own and I love, or the Sigma 10-20 f3.5. Solid choices for a really nice, good quality wide lens. Redonkulous and buying, in Canon's case, L series, that 11-35, 11-24, is it?
For what? Comparing to the 10-20?
Ultra wide, right? I don't know. Can't think of anything better.
I might be me. I might be cutting out a little bit.
No, Brian's cutting out pretty bad.
Brian's cutting out.
Well.
Okay.
Am I cutting out? Am I still here?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. I thought it was me because I was trying to run the show in the background. Internet's not the greatest at times.
McFly, hello.
There we go. Bueller.
Yeah.
There we go. I think we got you back.
I hope so, because I like being here. Oh no, Dixie just went into the litter box. This could be trouble. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes. Speaking of litter boxes, and talk about some new gear from Photokina. Now, what's the deal with Photokina, Phil? You know a little bit about this. Why is Photokina so much better than some of the other things that are out there?
Well, I don't know. It just seems to be that it's kind of the go-to to launch your product, to talk about a new thing or a new item. If we think about it in the, let's say, the consumer electronic world, a lot of people would be familiar with like CES down in the States. If you're into the video game side of things, you might be familiar with what's called the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3. I don't think it's been called Electronic Entertainment Expo in many years, but it's kind of like the place you go if you want to show off a new product, to see what's out there, see what's coming up in the industry over the next little bit. It's my understanding, at least.
Yep, absolutely, and it's very photo-centric, where CES is pretty much everything. Photokina is all about new camera stuff.
Exactly. Now, they probably have some cool technology down at CES. I probably get a lot of drones, a lot of 3D printers, that kind of thing, maybe some type of scanner, but not necessarily your kind of everyday camera, something that you're going to see on the shelf within the next 3 to 6 months. It's probably more of a 3 to 6 year away setup.
Yeah, probably. Nick is watching. I haven't seen Nick in a really long time, but he's here today. He's here to gain knowledge. Just saying. Anyway, love Nick. Nick's awesome. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that they've announced at Photokina. Now, we've heard recently, actually before Photokina, we heard about the 5D Mark IV. This has been huge. I mean, the camera industry has been a little bit weak lately, and when the 5D Mark IV came along, it's like all of a sudden, bam, everybody wants this camera. So what's the deal?
It's new.
Michael, you're a Canon person. Phil, you both are Canon people, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm Nikon.
Oh, you're Nikon. Jesus. Of course, I should know
You
that.
pulling a prank on me? What's going on?
No, I'm just stupid.
So the Mark IV, it's like the Mark III, has an extra, instead of 3 little lines on the front, they have 1 line and a V. It's really cool. And it takes pictures.
Did you hear the bad news about the Mark IV?
No.
That DxO Mark has gotten their hands on it and did their tests. Best Canon sensor ever made. Still not doing too well for DxO, apparently. They're saying they're very underwhelmed.
Now, I'm sure everyone knows who DxO is, but in case there's someone who has no idea who they are, who are they?
Yeah, I should have started with that. DxO... I don't even know how to describe this.
They are rating. They rate
Yeah.
lenses, and they
Okay.
basically
They've
created the
developed-
algorithms for rating lenses, and their reviews and their guidelines and their scale system is very advanced, very well thought out. And
Okay.
usually, if you check out the DxO rating on something, it's based on ridiculous testing, and it's extremely accurate. And they test dynamic range, and they test lens sharpness, and they also create all of the stuff for like Lightroom, all the presets for Lightroom lens calibration and so on. So DxO is huge, and for them to say that they're not impressed with something, can you clarify that, Michael?
I know that I believe the idea is they've come up with a lot of their own machinery as well for testing everything, and they've been very, very specific about the sharpness, distortion, chromatic aberration. They really inspect everything tightly. So I don't know. I'm trying to find it here exactly what it is that they're inspecting with the Canon that they didn't like. They've given it an overall score of 91. Apparently, I'm seeing here.
Seems good.
91's a pretty high scale.
I'm not even seeing. Let's compare it to the D810. Oh, I see what it is. 91 for the 5D Mark IV, but the Sony A7R II has a 98.
Okay.
And the Nikon D810 has a 97.
Oh.
Now they're saying the portrait color depth is 24 point, I think that's an 8 bits compared to 26 and 25.7 bits on the other two cameras. It also has the lowest dynamic range of the three and the lowest ISO performance.
Weird. You'd expect it to do a little better than that.
Oh, okay.
Well, especially
surprisingly,
the 5D Mark IV is a $4,500 camera.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And
Surprisingly,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to jump in. It's actually rated a little bit better than the Nikon D810 for ISO. It's 2995 ISO is what it's saying for its low light
That
rating.
makes sense though, because the D810 is a 36 megapixel and the 5D Mark IV is a 30 megapixel on the same size sensor. So pixel density is much greater on the 810. There's more pixels per square centimeter, which means there's smaller pixels, and smaller pixels have to work harder when you push more energy or electricity through them, which is what happens when you crank up your ISO. So long story short, the more pixels you have, the crappier your high ISO photography in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's why like the 5DSR doesn't go beyond 6400 because you'll blow the thing up. Yeah, so I mean, you're paying $500 more, which you know, it's okay. But if you're already invested in the Canon infrastructure, you'll spend the money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to go buy all new lenses because DxO says that the D810 has a better rating.
And the way they look at pictures might not be the way that you're looking at the picture. So who knows?
They look at it sideways
Exactly.
from a weird angle.
They also sell their own camera. So I want to know how their camera compares to the 5D Mark IV.
How does the DxO rating on their own camera work out? Oh, that's a good question.
I haven't heard that. I didn't know they had their own camera.
Yeah, it looks like it attaches to your iPhone.
Oh, it's DxO1. Yeah, it's an attachment. Yeah. Okay, so something else that was just announced though, the GoPro Hero 5. Now,
Right
it's interesting because there's a price drop. So it's 4K. The GoPro Hero 4 Black was close to $700.
That's a lot for a GoPro.
Yeah, it is. And now the Hero 5, which is 4K, has an LED or LCD screen built in. It's touchscreen. It's a little bit smaller size. Is selling for a little bit less money as well. Well, American is supposed to be $399, so it's probably going to be about $942 Canadian.
Exchange rates.
God love 'em.
Yeah.
So this
Looks
is
cool,
what
though.
it does look cool. That's what I was just going to show here. There you go. A new design, which means new accessories.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say new base accessories. Scroll down a little bit.
I can scroll down a little bit if you like.
It looks like it's still the same 3-piece kind of mount.
Well, this is the Session.
Oh, okay, never mind.
This is the Hero 5 here.
Yes, absolutely. But if we go down again, even with the little one, if someone was to go with something smaller, they would still be able to use all the same accessories.
Well, the clips on the one end would be the same, but what I'm talking about are batteries,
Yes.
housings, polarized filter attachments, all those kinds of things that people buy as peripheral items, and they've invested in their GoPro Hero 4 system, and now the 5 is out, and if they just want a new camera, they've got to buy all new stuff again.
Yeah. Now, when we take a look at the front, is there anything about that being like almost like a paper, like an LCD paper screen, as opposed to being an actual LCD screen? Because it looks really weird for a normal LCD screen.
There's nothing I see about that, but I tell you, we will be carrying these at the store. So as soon as they come in the store, I'm going to have a better look at it. Now,
Poke around with it.
yeah, it's funny because this Rolly camera was just announced. Rolly Action Cam 430 comes with 4K resolution, which is essentially looks like to me the GoPro Hero 4 Black.
It does look very similar. Screen
really does.
at the front doesn't look as sharp, but
Yep, button configuration, screen on the back, everything looks pretty much the same, except they got a funky little remote.
Okay.
Oh, they went orange. It's Hasselblad trying to make a GoPro.
Well, it is Rolly. I mean, Rolleiflex cameras. I mean, that's the era, right?
I also didn't know they were a company anymore.
I didn't think so either. It's probably a numbered China company now. I don't know.
Either that, or it's like how
Like
Pentax was a subsidiary of
Ricoh,
which was a subsidiary of probably someone else, and so it all goes downhill.
Well, things do change, that's for sure. And speaking of change, guys, we used to use these little cameras back in the day called Polaroid. Remember those?
Oh dear, yes.
Yeah. Do you guys still care about that kind of instant photo technology, like the Fuji Instax camera and all that? Which, by the way, there's a new Instax designed by Michael Kors, apparently a very good designer.
I think he makes purses.
Well, now apparently he designs Fuji Instax cameras.
Well, to be fair, Porsche used to design, or someone named Porsche used to design the Lacey hard drives. So, we could all be even.
They weren't too good.
They weren't?
So, yeah, not really. No, they had a high failure rate.
I need to buy a new hard drive.
Okay. So,
No, I
here's
don't want
the Michael Kors Instax, but now there's the new SnapTouch Polaroid. Now, the funny thing about Polaroid, it is just that. It is a numbered company at this point. It's no longer Polaroid, just like Kodak is no longer Kodak.
Yeah.
Basically, they go to the highest bidder. They get the contract for a few years, and then they put the contract up again for auction, and the next people with technology buy it and come out with something cool. So, yeah, it's the world we live in. So anyway, this camera here, SnapTouch Digital Instant Camera, is kind of neat. It prints directly in it. It has a touch screen, and you can actually output through Bluetooth to other print devices.
Okay. My only concern with this idea is for the longest time, and they might have changed, it has been a while since I looked at point-and-shoot cameras with any large depth. They made some of the worst point-and-shoot cameras.
Yes, they did.
In quality and in build construction.
Yes.
I like this idea, but again, I agree with you. I don't really understand the need to print immediately. And yeah, there's situations where that could be cool, like doing a photo booth or something.
Sure.
But there's already systems designed to get better quality pictures, like pictures I have from a photo booth here. And they work. So I kind of see the point in this, but at the same time, I kind of don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, what's it say on the front? What's that?
Where you're looking?
I thought it said 3 megapixels. I was just seeing things. It's 13 megapixels. But still, which isn't outstanding. But anyway, that's okay. Printing 3x5 pictures or something.
I'm just looking at the chat. Sorry. Andrew asked about how the Pentax K1 ranked on DxO, and Michael, you got to pipe up with your chat skills, because you are like the Mr. Moderator king here. You already answered them, so go ahead, answer that question again.
I was saying that the Pentax also beat the Canon, because I pulled it up and it's rated at 96 on DxO Mark.
Pentax K1's also a $2,500 retail full frame DSLR, so that's pretty cool.
And I noticed the dynamic range and ISO performance of that one is actually even in competition with the D810. The ISO is up there in the 3000s.
Well,
at least the 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV beat the 5D Mark III.
Yeah.
By a full 10%.
What about the 5D Mark V?
That, we'll see what happens. When they are like, uh-oh, and have to come up with something new.
They'll be to buy a whole 5%.
Here's a little spy scoop for you here.
Yes.
Here's Navi rocking the 5D Mark V.
I really want one of these. They're ridiculous.
So, just in case anybody is curious, no, this is not a 5D Mark V. This is the free USB stick you get when you order a 5D Mark IV. It's a little incentive they give you. And this is Navi rocking the little USB stick. So the lens comes off, and it's an 8 gig USB, which I think is funny that it's only 8 gig, especially considering what was just announced.
Yes.
So there's a new memory card on the block, folks.
Now, I want to say, to be fair about this card, we kind of knew it would be coming, just due to the SDXC format.
Right.
But
yeah, because originally when SDXC was announced, it was anything 64 gig to 2 terabyte it was supposed to be.
Yep.
And now they have a 1 terabyte SDXC card. Now, we were talking about this earlier. Michael, what are your thoughts on such a large memory card? Like, it's a tiny card. It's SD. It's a tiny little card, but it's got a bucket the size of Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's effectively this big.
Yeah, right?
I am super biased to large cards. We were talking about this before the show, that there's the theory of shoot everything on smaller cards, because if you eventually lose files, if your card eventually corrupts or stops working, you're going to lose a lot of pictures on a 32 or 64 gig card. You throw a terabyte card and lose all your pictures,
You're hooped.
you're not going to survive long enough to find out if you can recover them.
And it's
I
funny,
would have
too.
a heart attack.
If you've ever done a recovery on a memory card, doing a deep scan recovery on a 4 gig card can take an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine doing a deep scan on a terabyte?
It would take forever.
You might
would
as well
find
just
things shouldn't be there.
buy a computer just to
And
do
the
that.
answers to the life, the universe, and everything.
Especially a card that big, I can imagine someone getting lazy and just shooting everything onto
Yes.
it and then waiting until next month to upload.
Yeah.
And then no matter how fast your computer is, you're going to find those uploads the next month after that.
And it's just, it's ridiculous too, because when you think about it, your average computer these days probably has a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Yeah,
So if
mine
you fill
does,
this
and I've
card
already
up-
filled it up.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, and you're saying folding. Like, imagine if you went out and you shot a bunch of pictures on this, and then the card corrupted, and you lost like 8, or 9 different shoots you did for someone. You'd fold. You'd have to go out of business.
But then again, as a professional photographer, you should work out a workflow that would eliminate that from being a possible problem.
Absolutely, but worst case scenario, you would have to fold, kind of like the new GoPro drone.
Well, I'm glad you kept on
I was
saying
trying to
this.
figure out how to bring it back in. It wasn't.
I got the segue. I was kind of going with it. But yeah, no. Okay, so when you say fold, you mean like you lose all your data and you're hooped and you might as well just fold your business. But we're talking about a
Physically
folding
folding.
drone, a physically folding drone. GoPro has announced at Photokina their new folding drone, which is kind of interesting.
Mainly because it doesn't fold.
No, okay, so go ahead.
I'm on the bandwagon that it's not folding. It's squishing. This is squishing.
Interesting. So it's called the Karma Drone. It's an end-to-end storytelling solution, they say. It's compatible with all Hero 4 and Hero 5 cameras and foldable for convenient storage in a backpack. So it's interesting the way they've done it. It looks like they have the stick here that shoves into the front of the drone.
Oh, I didn't realize that physically jammed in the front. I thought they
So
were just advertising a different
That's
product.
the actual gimbal piece, right? So it's a detachable gimbal that pushes into the front of the drone,
Okay.
and you can tear it all apart and fold the legs back and put it in the little case they give you. Kind of cool.
It's very interesting.
I wonder how easy it is to fly.
I think it'll probably fly itself.
I would say so. I wouldn't be surprised if it does some type of tracking, because there's a couple drones that do that now. But at the same time, I'm not so sure about something that you jam in the front.
Yeah.
This seems like a lot less of a good idea to me.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell. I'm sure we will carry them. It'd be really neat to see how they work. I mean, they say it's designed with beginner pilots in mind, which is me. There's an automatic 1-button takeoff and a landing function, built-in no-fly zones to prevent the drone from flying into restricted areas, and it flies back to you if it's out of range, or if it loses connection, or if the battery's low. So it sounds very much like a DJI Phantom 3 Plus or something. Sell for about $800, probably American.
Yeah, a crazy price though, because that's even Canadian. That'd be maybe $1,500 if we do a direct conversion from American to Canadian without taking into account the buying power.
And you're talking about including the actual GoPro.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
No, not really.
And considering you don't need your iPhone to fly it, I kind of like that.
So what do you mean by that?
So if you click on it, it has its own screen. So you don't have to have like your phone sitting on the controller of like the Phantom 3, for example.
Right, which you would think would also give you better battery life in the GoPro, because the Bluetooth would, or the Wi-Fi would still be on.
Exactly, it would still be sending a signal. But if they had let's say a transmitter inside the drone, but then again, the drone's going to last for maybe 15 minutes. I don't know what the specs on it or any battery power, but I would assume 15, 20 minutes flight, maybe. So, might be worthwhile to send from the actual camera itself.
It's very interesting.
Stick thing has some magical technology built into it.
Well, you can see that it locks in place, so you don't have to worry about the stick thing falling out.
And we have to worry about someone forgetting to lock it in place.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, the human error aspect.
And just looking forward to a lot more GoPro pictures instead of, the animals taking off with the GoPro crashing into the animals, getting into like a nest and becoming one with the animals.
I don't know if I'm looking forward to that, actually.
I think looking forward might have been the wrong word. It sounded better in my head.
All right, now let's get into something that I think Michael would probably get more of a kick out of, and this is purely because we're in the portrait realm here. Phase 1. Now, you use Phase 1 software.
I do. I'm a huge fan of Capture One.
And this is all kind of part and parcel. So Phase 1 makes a medium format camera system, which is awesome. Awesome stuff. So what they've done is they've come out with a 100 megapixel back and a bunch of new lenses with the blue ring lenses. And the blue ring is their high-end Schneider glass. The Schneider glass is high-end German glass, rivals Leica, and what are you giggling about?
The only thing I think of when anyone ever says Schneider is, and I'm going super obscure on this one.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
The old video of the guy trying to sell, like, I think it's a Kodak camera or something on like the TV shopping network, and he's talking about the Schneider lens, and look at this beautiful picture of a horse. It's such a pretty horse with a tail, and it's a picture of a butterfly.
Oh my God. Not at all what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, no, it's just...
Not at all. I thought you were going to get into, one day at a time. Old Schneider, I'm aging myself here. Sorry.
No, I don't know. We're both down some obscure parts of the internet, apparently.
Yeah, right. But Phase 1 stuff is very high-end, very, very good quality, and their lenses are awesome. So it's a 0.65 crop factor the opposite way. The sensors are 0.65 larger than a full frame in this particular camera. So when they give you a 100 millimeter lens, you have to do the math. It ends up being like a 65 or something like that. No.
Because you're full frame.
Right. It's bigger than full frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Our 50 millimeter standard is their 80 millimeter.
That's right. Now, what I love is that it's got a 15 stop dynamic range in the top end IQ3 model. I don't know many other cameras, and DxO could tell us this, that have a 15 stop dynamic range. So pretty impressive stuff. I would love to play around with it. I certainly wouldn't want to buy it because...
Yeah.
Even though it's, I think, the low-cost version, it's still probably,
couple
thousand.
That price you just highlighted was the lens.
That was the lens. Here is the digital back. 32 or 33,000. You're looking at about $6,000 per lens. The 105 millimeter f2.8. Now, by the way, not just the focal length is 6.5, but also the aperture. So a 2.8 would probably look more like a 1.7 or something like that. The depth of field is so much exaggerated because of the larger sensor, but so cool. I'd love to play around with one of these things. Michael, have you ever used something like this for portrait?
Medium format lens camera. Yeah. I have actually. We had some older generation Hasselblads in college, so I've tried the Hasselblad with the 80 millimeter. I've used a 150 millimeter lens. Wow. Like this is outdated. The old CCD sensor technology. Old crappy. I couldn't stand using the interface of that camera, the buttons, everything was just bad. And yet looking at the photos coming out of it, unbeatable.
Wow. That's the thing. It's all about the image, right?
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than pixel peeping a medium format photo when you take your first headshot with it and you're counting the tiny little hairs on the front of someone's nose.
Wow. It reminds me of the America's Next Top Model show when it was on TV, and then they would show like the whole poster-sized photo that they would shoot of the model, and then they'd zoom right up into the face, and you'd see all that detail because they use like a Hasselblad medium format or something like that. Man, the detail you get is something special. Just to take a half a step back, Jennifer Wolf is watching. Thank you, Jen. Thanks for watching. And she says that about the drone, the GoPro drone.
Yep.
And if they upgrade the stabilizer, you have to upgrade that whole piece since it comes out and can be used on its own, which is true. Mm-hmm. That whole piece that sticks in the front is the stabilization part. So, Michael, what are you showing us there?
This is a photo that I took with the Hasselblad. This is the one I was referring to.
Nice.
Are you trying to say that this girl has hairs on her nose?
Well, you can see on the edge, or the tip of her nose is a little out of focus, but like, look at just all the detail. I shot this super shallow, so she's already, the front of the nose is out of focus, the hair is coming out of focus at the edge here, but look at how crisp. Every pore, every eyelash, the details in the eye is phenomenal. You can see me back there. It was a self-portrait I took with this camera. Through her eye.
Very cool.
And it's unreal. It's so cool to shoot one of these. It's definitely an experience.
Well, one day when I grow up, I'll have a chance of playing around with one of those things.
And I just want to throw this in there. Your comment about the 15 stops dynamic range. The highest rated dynamic range on DxOMark ever is still the Nikon D810, rated at 14.8.
That's pretty close.
So very close. And
very
I've
close.
always been a huge fan of Nikon's dynamic range. They're
no doubt.
Very, very high up on there.
Even the D5500 is close to 14 stops, and that's a fairly entry point camera. So they're sensors, and they're using Sony sensors too. So
yeah, and my D800 is 14.4, and I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what to appreciate about dynamic range, if you've ever heard of HDR photography, where you have to take at least 3 photos to get the medium exposure, the shadows, and the highlights, if you're using a camera with a really high dynamic range, no, you don't. You don't have to. It's got too much information.
Well, so the human eye can see up to 24 stops. So you can't really compare even the best DSLR at this point to what we see. And that's really what HDR is intended to do, is to simulate what we actually see with our eye. At least my interpretation of HDR, and everybody, goes to it for different reasons. Some people like that surrealistic look, which is more of an effect than it is to just create proper dynamic range. But nonetheless, I mean, 14 stops is way beyond. When I first started selling cameras 11 years ago, and by the way, I just had my 11th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. September 16th. And so, yeah, back 11 years ago when I started selling cameras, the best dynamic range I think we had was 6 to 8 stops. So we're doubled that now. So they've come a long way. Now, speaking of other things from Michael, did you hear about the new upgrade for Capture One?
I did, since you added it to the notes.
So they've upgraded to 9.3, and apparently they have 26 new camera and lens profiles.
Yeah, so, and they've also added a new special feature of compatibility with the, I don't know if it's ASO or ISO color edge monitors. For those who are unaware, ISO is the Lamborghini of photo editing monitors. The color output quality, the consistency is absolutely top of the line. They're ridiculously expensive monitors, but if you want to see what it really looks like, you look at it through one of these screens.
And before ISO, I guess the best would have been IPS or something like that, in plane switching monitors.
Yeah, so ISO, I think it actually is an IPS monitor. I can't remember. I do believe ISO is an IPS, but so it's the company.
It's a really good one
that makes it. But a lot of the ISO monitors now have built-in calibrators, and you can actually set some of them, I believe, on timers that every night or every few nights it will turn itself on, recalibrate the monitor, and just fold the calibrator away out of the screen, and you're good to go. So it's always, always, always accurate, and it's self-correcting.
That's awesome.
And Phase 1 has added a new feature to Capture One that if you're using an ISO monitor when you're working, it will actually create a calibration between Capture One and the ISO monitor. So not only is your monitor constantly calibrated perfectly accurate, it's also creating color profiles within Capture One so that your camera's photos are reading out accurate to the color profile of the monitor. So you're adding just that one more extra step of consistency across the board and total accuracy.
When you're looking for that accuracy, when you're shooting commercial and you need to actually have it done perfectly, there are better tools now than ever to make sure that you can do all that. And Photokina is bringing these new things out. Well, I shouldn't say they are. They're the forum where people are showing their product. But I love this time of year. I love new gear. It's so fun.
And
For the record, if anyone wants to get me a Christmas gift, ISO. I want an ISO monitor.
I'll start saving up after I replace my bathroom and buy a car. What were you going to say, Phil?
The same price of those two.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say some of the technology that's coming out sounds like it's going to be super useful, and some of it sounds more like a potential way to break something. And I'm speaking more to the Pano camera that you posted earlier.
Ah, yes,
the
Panono.
Panono? Yeah, Panono, because it's probably going to be a no-no. I'll make a screen share. I don't know why I'm so negative about the thing. I just saw a picture of it, and I think it looks kind of weird. It actually kind of looks a lot like my microphone. And
yeah, right.
It basically looks like a bunch of lenses stuck around a ball that you, if this video that I haven't watched is to be believed, you toss in the air. And then it takes a picture for you, and you get a nice 360-degree picture of that situation.
Right. So essentially, it works in different ways. It comes with a post that you can put in the bottom, like you see. And I'm looking at it as well. But at the top of the screen that you're looking at, it shows them holding it by a stick. So you can raise it up over your head and do a 360 pano, and it has like, how many, 26 different cameras built into it. 36 separate cameras. Each uses its own 1/4-inch sensor, and it does a resulting 108 megapixel 360-degree image that allows one to pan and zoom around the scenes. Now, it's kind of neat. You can hold it up with the stick, and it's much more steady. Or if you throw it in the air, the minute it senses the apex of that point, it snaps the photo.
That's awesome. So it has a little gyroscope in there to calculate speed or velocity.
Exactly. The problem is that if the ball is spinning,
it won't catch.
It'll blur. So you have to throw a perfect knuckleball when you toss this thing in the air. So it just kind of goes up nice and straight and then comes right back down. So in the video that they show, the guy is like launching it, like throwing it to get just the right shot. But it's a neat idea. Panono camera, 360-degree cam.
Very interesting. Kind of like Canon attempting to make another compact mirrorless system.
Okay, so you're talking about the new Canon M5.
Yes.
Which, if you've seen it,
it looks pretty cool.
Finally looks like a real cool camera. Because the M series, the mirrorless format from Canon, has not really done well in North America. The first year they came out, the M1, I sold one to my buddy Fred Osmond, who I love Fred because whenever he calls the story, he's like, "Hey, Bryan, it's FO." I'm like, "Hey, FO." And he's like, doesn't get mad at me for telling him to FO, which is really cool. But he loves his M1 camera. And when the M3 finally came back into Canada because the M2 wasn't available, he scooped it up right away. And now the M5 is around, so maybe I ought to call FO and tell him about the new camera. So it finally looks like a real camera.
Yeah, it's got a little grip on it. Looks like it has some type of pop-up flash, so it's a step ahead of my camera.
Yeah, it's an upgrade from your pro camera.
And some of the pricing on it, again, American. It doesn't look too bad with a basic kit lens. Kit lens itself doesn't sound too bad. 15 to 45.
I think it says a lot though when you look at who they're comparing it to. Sony A6300, the Panasonic GX8, both not full frame, but kind of flagship models from each manufacturer. So they're really kind of implying that this M5 is going to be a serious contender.
Yes.
I just hope that Canon comes out with a bunch of new lenses.
Because, they didn't, at least, and I know it's been a while since I looked at this style of Canon, mainly because I just haven't seen it. And and the issue I think I was thinking of with the first kind of M series is I think they had, 2 or 3 lenses?
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it. And so I guess if they're continuing down this path, they're going to have to release more, but...
That's the problem with a system. The manufacturer coming out with a new system is that it literally has to be that. It has to be a full system. Like, they have to come out with lenses that are compatible and so on, which is why I gave Pentax so much credit when they came out with that K1, because they also came out with 10 lenses that are going to be available for it, which is really impressive.
What, doubled the number of lenses available for your Pentax?
Yeah, right.
And I like Pentax. I like what they're doing. But a company like Sony to make mirrorless systems, or Olympus to make mirrorless systems, or Panasonic to make mirrorless systems, that, in my opinion, kind of makes sense because, and this is going to offend people, and I don't mean it in that way, they don't make actual cameras anymore. They really make that style, the mirrorless system, and they do it very well. So what confuses me, and I know it's because they want market share, but when Nikon and Canon want to get into the smaller infrastructure space, it requires them to come up with a lot of new things, which takes away from the, I'm going to call it the market that they really should be servicing.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, when they come out with the 7D Mark II with incremental improvements, but yet they're investing all this money in this whole new format, which hasn't done well for them enough for them to even bring it into Canada. I mean, it's almost like Skippy peanut butter, not Skippy Jif.
There we go.
It's made by Smuckers. Yeah. It's made by Smuckers, but apparently they don't think that the Canadian market's big enough to bring Jif into Canada.
And with a name like Smuckers, it ought to be good.
It ought to be available. But it's not. Anyway, I'm bitter about
this is going downhill.
No, this is Banter show. Okay, now speaking of Olympus, there's some new lenses from Olympus.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool stuff. Olympus, some of their glass is incredible. So now they have a 25mm f1.2. Now keep in mind, Olympus cameras use a 4/3 sensor, which is a 2 times crop factor. So 1.2 isn't going to look like 1.2 on your Nikon D800. It's going to look like 2.5 or something like that, right? Because of the crop factor you have to account for. So this is equivalent.
50.
Yeah, exactly. This is a 25mm that would be more comparable to a 50. They call it a 1.2, but that's, again, more like a 2.4 or 2.8 aperture. So you're looking at a 50 f2.8, but it's a pro lens. It's weather resistant or weather seal, and it's fast and it's sharp and it's full of juice and it's awesome. They also have a 12 to 100, which is a 24 to 200. 24 to 200. That's a pretty cool range for a camera. F4 and a 30mm f3.5. So it's like a 60 f7. That's kind of strange. Anyway, I think that's more of a kit product.
Well, Olympus has always been a fan of the smaller macro lenses. Like they had the 30mm for their Olympus E series, and then when they switched from the E series to the mirrorless systems, they kept the 30mm idea, and I don't really know why, because 60's not big enough, in my opinion, to get you the 1-to-1 replication you're looking like without, 1-to-1 replication you want without being physically on top of your subject. And that was the drawback to, so some people know, some people don't. When I started shooting for a very brief period, I actually used an Olympus E500. And so I had the 30mm macro for it. And the biggest drawback to it was anytime I wanted to take a picture of it, I was right next to the subject. And it was a giant pain. It was just too close.
Well, what can you do? What can you do? Well, that's true. I mean, you got to pick your lens for what you shoot.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, that's why I really like the Olympus or the Panasonic system, is because there's more than 60 lenses to choose from. So if you really want to get creative, they have the lens. My favorite lens for that entire format is the Leica 15mm f1.7. Oh, love that lens. It's about $900, but it's awesome. Anyway, speaking of Nikon lovers, that would be, now that my brain is on straight, myself and Michael, they have one lens that I am so excited for. Okay, so they have 3 new action cams, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about the key mission in just a second. But, Michael, did you see this? The 105 f1.4?
Yep.
Talk to me, Goose. Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking I feel so sorry for anyone who ever dares to manual focus that lens.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That's going to be razor thin no matter where you're standing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's important to note that this is not as Nikon would call it, a micro lens. This is straight up a distant,
like an 85 1.4.
Exactly. It's a distance lens.
Yes.
So you could own 2 Nikon 105mm lenses and do 2 very different things with them.
True, which is funny because the 105 macro is known as a pretty awesome portrait lens.
Well, it's a great length for it.
And now they've come out with the portrait lens. So now you can shoot at 2.8 and not be wide open.
And it's nano glass, so you get that awesome, crispness you're looking for, in theory.
Let's not forget Blake's favorite lens, the 105
DC.
I think it's the DC.
That's the one that you twist and it comes out, right?
Yeah, and it
distortion control.
I don't know how this works, but it adjusts your out of focus areas to be extra creamy. I theorize that this is finally a challenge to themselves. I think this is the one that's going to replace the DC.
Okay.
I think it's going to be faster, I imagine sharper, and without the defocus control, which, in my opinion, unless you've been using it for 5 years, is impossible to get used to. I can't stand that lens. I think because of how shallow it is, it's going to be so much creamier.
Yeah, it'd be really great. I'm definitely going to try it out. As soon as it's in the store, I'm gonna have it.
Yeah.
I don't know about buying it because it's not going to be cheap, but I'm definitely going to use it.
It shouldn't be too ridiculous, though. I'd say under $2,000.
Well,
I think they already said that it was going to be. I could have swore I saw a price somewhere that said it was going to be $2,500.
Okay, I might go to the ballpark on that one.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere near it.
Check out the price of the 85 1.4. It's around $2,800.
Yeah.
So why would the 105 be cheaper?
In my head, it should be.
In my head, it should be in my house. Yeah, but I don't want to take out a mortgage to buy it. Now, Nikon also came out with 3 new action cams. Now, we're getting close to the 1 hour mark, so we're going to talk about these and then get to the final part of our show. But the 3 action cams is the 360, the 170, and the 80. So there's 3 different series. The 360 is a full 360 degree. It's 2 sensors back to back, with 2 wide-angle lenses in the front. It's a waterproof camera, so you can use it like an action cam, but it's a full 360-degree 4K camera, and it's tiny. It's awesome. I really, 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 really have been looking forward to this thing. I think before I get a replacement for Bob, which is dead, Doug still works, my GoPros, I am going to consider these Nikon systems. There's just been a huge delay on getting anything from Nikon, and we'll talk about that just in a second. But
they released the information on that a while ago, didn't they? Because we talked about it at the same time we talked about the terrible quality version of the 360-degree camera. The Theta. Thank you. I couldn't remember who made it.
Yeah, the Ricoh Theta, which isn't terrible. It's just 1080p, not 4K. So when you take a 1080 image and you stretch it all the way around you, it looks terrible. You start with 4K, and now you have more data to wrap around and get that full image. So it theoretically should be a lot better. But their other one, the 80, is the one I think is going to do much better than people expect it to. The 170 is a standard action cam. It's just got the front-facing camera. It's just basically like a 170-degree viewing angle. The 80 is more for like bloggers. You can just wear it in your pocket and it would continue to record. It has a little camera on the front and it takes great sound. And it sounds to me like something that people who do video blogs or food critics or anything like that would use just to walk around and videotape fun stuff. It's more reasonably priced. And it's really neat that they came out with the 3 different series. I only thought they were coming out with 1.
That's really weird.
So you got something for everyone now, which is great. Now, on the point of sensor or lack of stuff from Nikon, this brings me to I think the last point that we're going to really get to, which would be still no sign of the DL series from Nikon. Now, the DL is supposed to be their higher-end point and shoots. I don't know if you've been in a camera store lately, but if you go to the Nikon section where the point and shoots are supposed to be, there's like nothing. We have 2 cameras in our store. The P900, which is their massive zoom point and shoot camera that you can literally record video and fill your image of the moon and fill your screen. 3/4 of your image would be filled with the zoom of this camera. You're zooming in so far of the moon. But as far as photos go, I mean, I would say a huge percentage of the ones that we sell come back. So I don't talk about that camera. I try and talk people out of that camera, to be honest with you. And then the only other option we have is the waterproof, the AW130, which is a great camera. Oh, and the S33 we have occasionally. They're cheap, very basic price point, $130 waterproof camera. So nothing from Nikon, and this DL series, which is supposed to really rock the boat. We're talking comparable to the G series from Canon or the RX100s from Sony and stuff like that. They have like a 2485 and all these different versions of these cameras, which we're not even going to see for a while. So it's a bit disappointing.
Now, is there any reasoning on the delay, or is it just...
Originally, the reasoning was the Sony sensor plant that was damaged during the last earthquake in Japan hasn't been able to produce sensors and hasn't been able to produce product, and everybody buys their sensors from Sony. So Canon ran into snafus, and Nikon's running into these issues, and that's all because they can't get their stuff.
Interesting.
It's a bit of a bummer. All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of stuff. Like we covered a lot of ground. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to point out one of the things that I'm really excited for, even though they're announcing all these things from phase 1, Fuji medium format camera.
Yes.
They're coming out with a medium format. I think this was rumored for a while that this was inevitable. It was going to happen. That instead of what Hasselblad was trying, which was take their medium format technology and shrink it down to a consumer level, which failed. Go away. Fuji making their tiny, brand new sensors, new technology, beautiful. I think they're probably going to use it in the new one. Their organic sensor array, which was a beautiful idea. I had a Fuji camera for a little while and I loved it. They're moving up the chain to making medium format. Now, Pentax has already done that, making their medium format camera, which was the true budget solution for medium format. A lot of people that have it love it. Now Fuji's doing it, and I think Fuji is going to absolutely rock the party.
I think they're going to kill it. In fact,
they bring it out.
Our buddy Navi has been talking about this camera herself. So I'm really interested to see how these things take the industry by storm. And if you look, the image that I have shown here, it's compared to a D810 as far as size goes. So we're not talking about a huge camera, but the sensor is ridiculous.
Now, part of that size savings is because it is mirrorless.
Yeah, it's a mirrorless medium format camera.
Yeah. Now, something I need to point out, which on the topic of like DxO mark ratings and dynamic range and ISO performance, Fuji came out with their organic sensor array, which is instead of the Bayer array for the RGB filter on a camera, which is a 2x2, it's, I believe, red, green, green, blue. The organic array is an asymmetrical array of 6x6. And It was a new approach. I think they actually combined with Panasonic to invent this. I believe the story went. And because they designed it that way, what happens is some of the optical issues that you face with the original array have now disappeared. It's significantly better low light performance. And there's an optical term called moire. It doesn't have moire with this sensor because of the asymmetrical pattern, a much broader pattern. The moire patterns that you would normally see in tighter textures doesn't show up. It's a marvelous, marvelous invention that they've come out with, innovation that they've done, and it worked so well with their cameras. And what I have to say is their Fuji X100S was the one that I ended up using. That was, I believe, I don't think it was micro four thirds. I think it was an APS-C sized sensor.
Yes, it is. It's still on the shelf.
Still a cropped sensor. Still a tiny, tiny, tiny little sensor, and it killed it for the low light performance. It was phenomenal. Their pictures looked amazing, amazing, amazing. Now they're coming out with medium format. They're going to use the same sort of sensor array. I don't know what their megapixel rating is going to be, how tight these pixels are going to be, but a medium format camera with the organic array, this is going to be the cleanest, most beautiful, most exciting low light performance in a camera I could imagine. That is the part I'm really excited for. And I have to pair that with the part that I'm least excited for. This looks like the Fuji X-T1. I can't hold it. It's the most awkward grip I've ever had. I'm so in love with that camera, and I can never use it because I can't hold it. And I'm looking at this body right now going, I'm going to love you in the display case.
Well, Fuji is doing some insane things. There's no doubt about it. Their GFX system, total game changers, 51.4 megapixels, just a beautiful looking device. And I got to show you this here. I was just checking out their website. As Nav, I always tease Navi, the X100, the 100X, whatever, all these other Fuji cameras, the X-T1, whatever. I always tease her and I say she's a hipster because she likes all the Fuji cameras, right? So I just got a message from her, hipster, because we're talking about this. But look at this. Okay, so here's the cameras, and they're talking about showing some accessories that you see here. But check this out, Michael. A little bit of a glimpse here, and all of a sudden, they have a 6x7 or a 6x6 camera with bellows and everything. I mean, talk about going old school. Awesome. Look at you.
Be still my heart.
I want it.
Oh my God.
It could be terrible. I still just want it.
I don't even care if it's good. I just want it sitting on my shelf.
That's awesome.
I think Fuji has collectively, in just this move, just this announcement, they have absolutely mutilated Nikon and Sigma, and just I had another one for this list, but they're killing everyone. Leica,
yes.
They've got the old traditional look. They've got the low light performance. They've got the hipster feel. They've got the fancy new glass. They've got the fancy everything. They're killing it. They're killing it. They're killing it. This is the most exciting one for me.
Yeah, they really do make amazing sensors. There's no doubt about that. Okay, guys, thank you both so much. That was a lot of fun. We got into some really cool product. We're going to start to say our good nights, but before we do that, we just want to remind everybody the current photo challenge is the Naked Photography Challenge, which means one camera, one lens, sit in a small area, 10 foot by 10 foot or something like that. No editing, only shoot in JPEG. Create 20 images in an album and post it to the Daytripper Photo community, and tell us which two of those images you actually want us to talk about. So we're going to look at the entire collection, the entire album, and get the theme and see how you interpreted taking these images. But then we're also going to just talk about those two photos and give you our impressions of how you made the shots. I'm going to do mine at my thing this weekend on an island.
Okay.
So I've made the decision. I'm going to do my thing there. If I have time. If I don't have time, I'll do it when I get home, probably in the office or something. But I'm going to do it at the island, in the private, in the middle of nowhere island.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm bringing my infrared camera. I might use that. Herschel. I might use my 50 millimeter kit. I might use my 24-85. I don't know yet. We'll see how the world looks when I'm up there. Have you guys given thought into what you're going to do for your challenge?
Not really.
A
I
little
have a
bit.
bit of free time, so I think I'm going to. I think I'm gonna try it out in the coming days. I had something I was supposed to shoot on the weekend, and that seems to have fallen through, which is a bit of a bummer. But maybe if I have a bit of time, I'll shoot some pictures.
Cool. There's a few people who have already been posting their challenges. Michael, are you going to get yours done?
Yeah, I know where I'm gonna shoot. I know what lens I'm gonna use. It's just the question of which photos I'm getting, because I know I've wanted to take a few like abstracts around the studio here, around my office, and I think I'm probably gonna do it this coming weekend because I've got a model visiting from out of town. One of my friends coming in, so I'll probably take a few photos of her as well and add that to the challenge.
Cool. Can't wait to see what you guys do. And I can't wait to see what all of our viewers do. And thank you so much to our
Super
viewers
excited.
for sticking with us this whole show. We talked about a lot of crazy cameras, gizmos, and gadgets and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know who picked it, but the quote of the day that I have highlighted, I think is a very good quote to read.
Okay.
So whoever chose the quote, go for it.
Okay. And so this week's quote is, photography isn't about cameras, gadgets, or gizmos. Photography is about photographers. A camera didn't make a great picture more than a typewriter wrote a great novel.
That's from Peter Adams. Very good quote. Good choice. Awesome. It's so true. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Look, I sell cameras for a living, and I should be more than happy when somebody comes in and says, I have a D800. I want to buy a D810. Or I have a 5D Mark III. I want to upgrade to the 5D Mark IV. But in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, what does your 5D Mark III not do that you're trying to do?
3 points of dynamic range on the DLX website.
The DxO. But
DxO website.
But this is my point. Like, so many cameras, photography has been around for 177 years or so. There are images made 100 years ago that hold up to be just as good, if not better, than a lot of the images we see today, because people understand light. They took their time. They composed an image that was attractive and told a story. So more than any gear you buy, guys, learn how to use the tool you own.
Mm.
And this is why we do Daytripper Photo.
Yep.
Because this is our classroom, folks. This is what we do. I hope you all enjoyed the show tonight. Please don't forget to click like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the show with your friends, and let them know that we're doing this and having a great time doing it. This was episode 190. We have 191 coming up next week, which just so happens to be our 4th anniversary of the Daytripper Photo Show. We were going to have some of the former hosts back on the 4th anniversary, but I think we're going to push that. We're going to push that back. We're going to bring the host back on the 5th of October. Navi has already agreed to come back, and I'm hoping
Nice.
Gabriel will as well, because Gabe is freaking awesome, and I really miss him being on the show. He's just a really funny guy. Like, that vibe of Gabe being on the show is missed. You know, he is definitely missed. He was a fun dude, and I miss him, working with him every day. So, you know, whatever. I still get my Gabe fix every once in a while, though. It's okay. And no offense, Michael. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that there's a comparison here, because you bring a whole different vibe, and I love what you've brought to the show, and the editing and all the things that you do and your opinions, and I really appreciate all that you've done. You jumped right into our show here and made a huge impact, so I really appreciate that. So next week's show, the 4th anniversary of our show, is our photo review for the Naked Photography Challenge. So tune in next week, guys. Same bat time, same bat channel, I guess you could say, and watch what we talk about for the Naked Photography Challenge. All right, guys, anything else you'd like to add before we say peace?
No, I think we covered a lot of things tonight.
Cool. Michael?
Buy me an ISO monitor.
It's not Christmas yet, dude.
Hey, he's got to plant the seed early.
Oh, good point.
Gonna have to save up for a while.
All right, guys. So thank you both, and thank you everyone one last time for watching. Have a good night. We'll see you all next week.